Hey guys, hello everyone. A few minutes late today. Apologies about that. Just to clarify, today we're going to be talking about metaphors and the novel The Picture of Dorian Gray. So we're going to explore vocabulary, metaphors, stories, and a few other things. However, before that, I will say I'm expecting a delivery soon, so I will be leaving the room for about 5 minutes or so, but I will be back. I'm just going to put that in the text box now so everyone is aware. And so when you join the chat, you may see that I'm not here, but don't worry, I will be back. I'm just going to clarify that right now. Right, so as outlined in the message box over there, I will be leaving for 5 minutes to pick up the delivery. Going downstairs, coming back, but it's completely fine because we can always go back and catch up on things we missed. So, as I said, we're going to be talking about metaphors today. So, I have made a short PowerPoint titled The Picture of Dorian Gray. So, we shall explore that now. Okay, so as outlined earlier, our topic of discussion today is going to revolve around metaphors and vocabulary. So if you haven't studied what metaphors are, you may be confused, maybe you have studied it before, maybe with me personally or not, but it's always good to study it again because it reinforces the idea, meaning the more you do something, the easier it becomes and the more natural it becomes. Okay, I hope everyone is doing well today. So, to begin, The Picture of Dorian Gray is a Gothic and philosophical novel by Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde was an Irish poet and a playwright. He is one of the most skilled writers, so he's one of the best writers. So his work uses many metaphors and has a rich vocabulary. So basically, this guy is a very good writer, and if you read his work, you can use his ideas, his style of writing. It may help with your own vocabulary and your own ways of communicating. So let us get into the work. So let's begin with what is a metaphor. I hope this text is big enough, by the way, guys. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. Oh, that's too much. Okay, how's that for size? Hopefully that's okay. Right, so a metaphor is a figure of speech that describes an object or action in a way that isn't literally true, but helps explain an idea or make a comparison. So it compares things, okay? It can do, rather. Now, this might sound very confusing right now and abstract, but don't worry, we're going to go through some examples and pictures, which is going to make more sense. So basically, a metaphor states that one thing is another thing. Um, it equates those two things not because they are actually the same, but for the sake of comparison or symbolism. If you take a metaphor literally, so when it will probably sound very strange. So, are there actually any sheep, black or otherwise, in your family? So you may have heard of the phrase black sheep. So the sheep, the animal, and people often say black sheep. Now they don't, when they use this metaphor, they're not saying the sheep is actually black. What, because the sheep has white fur. What they are saying is that the sheep is the odd one out. There is something strange about it. They are using language that means something else. You might notice that metaphors have some similarities to idioms. People who have been in my previous class when we covered idioms, you may remember this, which are common expressions, but they are quite different, as we will soon see. But just remember the red. The red is the key part of this, okay? So a metaphor is a figure of speech, okay? A figure of speech. So do not take it literally. It is, do not think the words represent what the idea. The idea can mean something else that is different to the words. So let's go through some examples about this. So, first of all, here are some examples. So we have the sun was a gleaming pearl. Okay, so pearl, you know, the jewel, they are not saying that the sun is an actual pearl. They are just saying the sun is a gleaming pearl to exaggerate it, to say how shiny it is, right? So they're saying the sun was a gleaming pearl. Now, this example I like very much because it really makes you understand um, in a very simple way. So here we can say, my baby brother is a cute little teddy bear. Okay, I'm going to take this delivery, guys, and I'll be right back. Hello? Are you here already? Okay. Liberty, no, it's Liberty Central. Right. Hey guys, I'm back. Thank you very much for waiting. The driver got kind of lost, and I had to guide him and phone him again. So I'm now back. So as I was saying, we were discussing metaphors, and I said my baby brother is a cute little teddy bear. I said this is a very good example. Well, why am I saying that? Well, let's look. Let's look at the reasoning. So you have a baby brother, and you're saying he's a cute little teddy bear. So you're calling him a teddy bear to show that he's really cute, right? And cuddly. But we don't actually mean he's an actual teddy bear, right? So this is an example of a very clear metaphor. My baby brother is a cute little teddy bear. So remember our definition from the previous slide. So it says, a metaphor is a figure of speech. So this is what we mean when we say a figure of speech. We don't mean it literally. We are just using it as a figure of speech. So remember, a metaphor is a figure of speech that describes an object, in this case, the my little brother, or action in a way that isn't literally true. So you remember, your brother is not an actual teddy bear, but you're saying he's a cute little teddy bear because you want to show how cute he is. So you're equating him to a different object, the teddy bear. Okay? Another example here. My sister's memory, so you know the memory, the things you remember. My sister's memory is a camera. So remember, here you can see a camera, is a camera that remembers everything we see. Now here they are comparing a person's memory, the sister's memory, to a camera using a metaphor. So my sister's memory is a camera that remembers everything we see. It's another way of saying my sister has a very good memory. But we could say that, and that would be fine. But to make the sentence more interesting, the writer has used a metaphor. So that remember, figure of speech. My sister's memory is a camera that remembers everything we see. Now we have metaphors cross-culturally in many languages. I'm sure whatever other languages you may speak, you also have metaphors. So hopefully you can see how this kind of language can make things more interesting. Again, the car seat is a fluffy cloud. So cloud, the things in the sky. Our car seat is not made of the clouds, right? No. But because this person wants to say how comfortable the car seat is, they called it a fluffy cloud. So this is what a metaphor is. So hopefully that makes sense, guys. Obviously, as always, if you have any questions, do put them in the chat box or review this video and go back. So remember, so simple sentences can have a big impact. So what do I mean by this? Well, sentences that are easy to write, use basic words for the most part, they can have a big impact. And Oscar Wilde, while he used a lot of metaphors and you know poetry in his language, a lot of the sentences were very simple, but they had a big impact. So don't think just because you use a simple sentence does not mean it's not gonna have an impact. It can. So here's an example. There is only one thing in the world worse than being talked about, and that is not being talked about. So this is one of Oscar Wilde's most popular sentences in the book or the novel The Picture of Dorian Gray. So let's unpack it a little bit. So what is he saying here? Well, first of all, he's saying there is only one thing in the world worse than being talked about. So when people are talking about you, so you're in the house and your friend is talking about you, your teacher is talking about you, your wife is talking about you, your wife's friend is talking about, everyone is talking about you. And maybe they are talking negatively about you or positively. They may be saying good things or bad things. But that's one thing, right? And he here in the sentence is saying it's true that is bad, it can be bad, but if no one talked about you, that would be even worse. Because if no one talked about you, you're getting no attention, and humans are social beings. We need attention, right? And he makes many points with this short sentence. So it's a sentence that has more implications. It has an impact because it tells you about so many ideas, and that is part of why um, his language and his writing is so powerful, because he can use simple sentences, short sentences, to say a big story, right? So here's another one I'm sure we can all relate to. Nowadays, people know the price of everything and the value of nothing, right? So again, um, we look at things and we know the price of them or how expensive they are, but we don't value the things that can be meaningful in life, right? So you can see this in all areas of life. So next sentence. Some things are more precious because they don't last long. Okay, the word precious meaning, something that is very important to you. So uh, an area that he uses this sentence in is when he's talking about life. So our life is very short, considering our lifespan. So in this context, he's saying our life is precious, very important because it does not last long. That's what maybe makes it beautiful. I mean, you can argue obviously otherwise, but this is his argument. And this short sentence is has many implications and tells you more stories within a sentence. Okay, so that's the point about so simple sentences can have a big impact. Okay, so number 6. I just like people to first of all read this along with me, or listen to me reading it and then reread it themselves. You'll notice some words are in red. We will come back to them soon. So I say here, what do the highlighted words mean? But before that, I would encourage everyone to read this. So I will go ahead. Not at all, answered Lord Henry. Not at all, dear Basil. You seem to forget that I am married, and the one charm of marriage is that it makes a life of deception absolutely necessary for both parties. I never know where my wife is, and my wife never knows what I am doing. When we meet, we do meet occasionally. When we dine out together or go down to the Duke's, we tell each other the most absurd stories with the most serious faces. My wife is very good at it, much better, in fact, than I am. She never gets confused over her dates, and I always do. But when she finds... Sorry, I'm just scrolling down. Where was I? Okay, here. But when she does find me out, she makes no row at all. I sometimes wish she would, but she merely laughs at me. Okay, so this is a small piece of, or small extract from the book, The Picture of Dorian Gray. As you can see, some of the sentences are quite simple, they use everyday words, but there are also words that are more difficult to understand. So, first of all, let's just make sure we understand them. So, first word would be charm. What do you think that word means? Then we have the word deception. What do you think that word means? We can start with from the bottom and work our way up. So we have the word row. So remember the context of the sentence. But when she does find me out, she makes no row at all. So what does she mean by this? No row. So she means she makes no argument. It's like another way of saying argument. When you have a row with someone, it's kind of an argument. It's a divisive situation. It's an argument is one way of thinking about it. That's when you have a row with someone, you have a disagreement, an argument. Okay. Noise. It's often noisy. Absurd. It's like something that is ridiculous, very difficult to understand, like crazy. Occasionally, this word here means like only sometimes. So let's say you go to the doctor, there's 12 months in a year, right? 12 months. You go to the doctor only once a year. So you go to the doctor 1 out of 12 times, okay? So you're only going to the doctor surgery occasionally. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so let's look at some themes within the story. So the story looks at youth, so it looks at people, young people, and how long that lasts for. It looks at good and evil. It looks at death. It looks at morality. By the way, when we say themes here, we're talking about the subject of story, a particular topic within the story or poem or whatever. We're looking at art and culture as well. So, just this idea of morality, it's a difficult word to define. One definition of it could be that it's a set of principles that we use to decide what is good and what is evil. So, how how do people have a sense of morality? How do you decide what is good, what's evil, what's wrong, what's right? This is what the book tries to explore. So think about that yourself. How do you make these decisions? Um, so for example, one thing people would say is, and a lot of people do say this, they use religion for their morality. Some people are Christians, some people are Muslims, some people are, Buddhists, and they would say their morality is derived from their religion, and that's how they decide what's good, what's evil. Some people will say um, it's a society what defines morality. So other people, we have collectively come to a decision about law, ethics, and many other areas of life, and we have collectively or democratically decided what is moral and what's not. So, what's good, what's bad. Some people might look at politics, some people might look at human nature, genetics. Some people even use genetics to argue for morality. So, it's a very broad. Um, it's a word with very broad implications. So when you look at this word here, you can relate it to many things, okay? Not just one thing. It's a very difficult word to fully understand because it has many different meanings. Something like death is more um, easy to understand, it's the end point. But even then, some people believe in the afterlife. So they say after you die, you can go to heaven or hell. Some people will say, no, there is no heaven, or there probably is no heaven or hell, or there's no evidence for there being a heaven or hell. So you can look at it both ways, okay? Good and evil. Again, remember what I said about morality. So, how do we decide this? So I'd like you to think about this yourself and try to answer it, how you decide it, what influences you to come to these decisions about good and evil. Um, Art and culture. So how do we decide what is art and how do we decide what cultures are good, what's good about a culture and what's bad about a culture? Again, it can tie into morality as well. But something like art, I guess it's easier to categorize in a way than something like morality because I can draw a nice picture and you can say, well, that's art. Someone else might say, no, it's not, it's terrible. But you get the point. So, um, some questions I just want you to think about. You don't have to answer them right now. Just think about them and do review the video if you have to and answer all these questions on a sheet of paper. So, first of all, what is a metaphor? Try to explain this in your own words. If you have forgotten what the definition was, go back and answer them. What does charm mean? You'll notice that I did not um, explain what this word meant for a specific reason. I want you to Google it yourself and find out for yourself because I I am here to help you, but I also want you guys to be independent as well. So when you come across a word that I have not explained, or because you will come across many words throughout your life that no one has explained to you or they don't make sense. So we have to use the internet and dictionary and other sources to help us understand. So Google what the word charm means, see how it's used in sentences, and hopefully it will make more sense. Who wrote The Picture of Dorian Gray? And how do we decide what is good and what is bad? This is probably the toughest question. So first of all, consider how you decide, then consider how other people decide. Okay, thank you very much for attending today, everyone.